Hello everybody, in the last lecture we created a problem. What problem, do you ask? Notice that in this line we print the result of area rectangle. And that's all. How to use that value in our program. Notice that we could have, for example, 5 rectangles that are very similar and we want to somehow count it very fast. So normally we would do something like that probably, right? 5 multiplied by the something what should be here. What will happen when we do it? As you can see, we have an error. We can see that it's 24, 4 multiplied by 6, right? So we have the value printed from here, but we can't multiply 24 by 5 here. Why? Because here we do have something what is called a NaN type. This is an integer and we cannot multiply something what is integer by something what is none, what doesn't exist, right? Something that is void, empty. What exactly happens here? When you invoke a function, so when you type a name of function and you send arguments to a function, you jump to the definition, you assign the values to parameters, and then you execute the instructions, and then you do something what is called return. You return, and as the name suggests, it means that you return to the place where the function was invoked, so to this place. And by default, here is something like that, return. And it means that when you don't add anything after the return keyword, it means that you return nothing, the NaN type. So it will be something like that, 5 multiplied by none. When we run the module, as you can see, we have the same error here. So this thing, what we did here, is the same as if we did it like that, right? It's totally the same. So how can we change it? How can we return a value here? We can, instead of writing print here, we can write something like that. And now we can use this, the result, as a value. 5 multiplied by 24 is 120. This is really cool because now we can easily use our function as many times as you want, and we can, for example, multiply the value that is gonna be returned by another value, right? So it's better than printing the value inside the function. What's more, you can now write, for example, here something like that. The area of rectangle is equal to, and you can do something like that, right? And we got a message like that. We could also, make it here, right? Print. But the problem is that if we did it like that, we would be stuck with this message. Every time when you invoke the area rectangle or any other of your friend who gonna use your function, he would need to use the same message. In real life situation, we most time want something different on the message, right? We would like to write something like the area of rectangle, which first side is equal to and the second side is equal to is equal to something like that. Somebody might want to show it like that. And if you add a print message here, then it's gonna lead to a problem. Of course, if a function is gonna just print things, that's okay, right? But if a function is a function that should count something, you should avoid using the print inside the definition, okay? The cool thing about also having something like that is that now we can, for example, save the value, the result, in another variable, right? We can say something like area, rectangle, A. For example, B, right? Area rectangle B. Something like that, right? And now we can show, for example, it like that. For example, we multiply it by 7, whatever. And as you can see, it works fine. What is more, you could use, for example, a loop that would create many rectangles based on the values that you got from the 5, for example, and insert them into the list. Whoa, it's powerful, right? And you could use just this function for that. So it would be cleaner, right? Because you use a function name, so you instantly see what you are doing, and you could generate many elements, many rectangles, many area of rectangles very fast. There is one more thing that the return function can do, and it's really, really important. It can exit the function anytime you want. What does it mean? Let's create a function that we will call, for example, divide. So it will divide two numbers, for example, a and b. And we'll just return instantly a divided by b. So when we do something like that, print divide, and we send to it 20 and then, for example, 10, we'll get as a result 2. Let's take this thing under the comment. But when we do something like that, 20 divided by 0, we'll get an error, division by 0. Because, well, we can divide by 0, right? And we could inform about it somehow here. And we could, we could not return this thing. We could do it two different ways. We could do something like that. If b is equal to 0, then we could, for example, return nothing. Otherwise, we would return this thing. But with the knowledge that return means exit from the function, we do not need to type the else here. Because when the computer meets the return instruction, it's gonna return to the place where the function was invoked. Instantly, he will jump from here to here. It will replace all the content here. Okay, so we can just return, for example, none here. Otherwise, we'll return the a divided by b. Of course, the colon. And as you can see, we have none here. And, well, we can use this fact because we need to know that none is really, in logical way, a false statement. So we could do something like that. If everything went fine, then we're gonna print the numbers were divided properly. Otherwise, we can print division by 0. As you can see, division by 0 is shown because we returned here none, right? 20 is passed here, 0 is passed here, b is equal to 0, so return jumping here, and this is replaced by this. If none, the numbers were divided properly. No, because none means false, so we're gonna see division by 0. If we wanted to use the value from here, we could do something like that. as you can see, division by 0, but if everything is okay, the numbers were divided properly, the result is equal to 4. You might be thinking, we could put the print here, right? Yeah, maybe it will be a good idea, but if somebody would want to have a different message in a few places, then it could lead to a problem. Unless you would specify as a third argument what would the error be, then okay, that's okay, because you give the option to change the message, okay? But otherwise, try to count something, return the values, and that's all, okay? So remember, every time when you invoke a function, you jump to the place where the function is defined, you assign the values that were sent as arguments to the parameters, and then you execute every instruction until the return statement is met. If the return statement is not shown, then even it's not there, the none type is gonna be returned, right? None is gonna be retained. And always when the function executes everything, this thing, the name of function, the parentheses with the arguments inside, are gonna be replaced by the value that was the result. So in our case, for example, 24, or of course none, right? If there was no return statement or return statement was blank, right? When there is nothing after the return statement. So 24, and here was, I think, 48, right? So it's replaced. It's really important. So you can reuse these values in your program. You can use them later. Okay, that's only a lesson.